We got 15 seconds, but. Ready? Okay, I'd like to call to order the Alton School Board meeting for December 15th at 5:30 p.m. Roll call.
Mike Colin.
Ann Pierce.
Eric Bordeaux.
Lauren Ferruccio.
Christy Wood.
Tim Broderick.
Matt Jazokis.
Janice Christian.
Heidi Duford.
And would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on to the agenda review. Make a motion.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
No questions, changes? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Approve the minutes from November 18th and the non-public session as well.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for November 18th, 2025, and the minutes for November 18th, 2025, non-public, and to seal those indefinitely.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We'll move into the public input portion of the agenda for agenda items only. Anybody for that? Seeing none, hearing none. Okay, we'll close public input for agenda items only and move on to informational items. School board correspondence.
Do you have any?
Is there any?
You don't have any,
No.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on.
So,
but it's always on the agenda.
great, financial report. Heidi?
Yep, it's in your packet. Moving along, it's still early. I did want to bring your attention to the principal's office. There's a negative there, and that's due to the SRO because we don't have the grant funding anymore. If there's any other questions, answer.
It's important to know, Madam Chair, sorry. It's important to understand that when we over or underspend a function in the budget, we want to report that over or under expenditure. We don't transfer funds to cover those things because then we don't tell an accurate story. So the important thing in a mid-year expenditure report is where are we on the bottom line? Because in the end, as long as your over and under expenses across the entire budget balance and you haven't overspent your appropriation, we're okay. And right now, we are, as you can see at the bottom line, 6.29% unencumbered, a little over $1 million. So in December, that feels like a good place to be just in light of our experience. Better than some years in some schools, so this is good.
And based on the actual OT PT service, how does the budget for next year look? Like, is that a fair number that we propose?
So,
Or are you comfortable with it?
yeah, we're in the process of writing a grant activity for those services, and
Okay.
until it's approved, it'll stay in here, but once it does get approved, I'll be removing that amount, and it'll be paid by the grant funds.
Okay. But the number for next year that we.
It's fine.
Is good, you're still good with that? Okay. Anything else on the finance report? Okay. Buildings and grounds, Sean's not here. The team is doing an amazing job at all the salt cleanup and snow removal. Thank you to that. 4 new univents are scheduled to be installed in the ERC. And we got some of the soundproofing panels up. It's getting there.
Sounding great.
It'll be nice to have them all installed and see how we do there. It'll be a nice improvement. And we also want to take the time to thank Sean as Director of Buildings and Grounds. With him leaving very soon, it's going to be really, it's sad. But we greatly appreciate all his dedication to the building and just always willing to help out wherever he could. He will be missed.
Absolutely.
All right, technology reports.
You do have a first reading. It's a procedure as opposed to a policy, but we do have a practice here of bringing them to the board for review. We've generally done that with procedures regarding synthetic media and deepfakes, which is really an extension of existing policy JICL. And if you've been paying attention to the news lately, you understand why.
Any questions?
What does it mean when it says that they set up a canned comment bank?
So schools do this different ways, and I've seen schools change their minds and alternate, and we have people here who have worked in schools who have probably seen this done different ways. When teachers prepare report cards through our electronic student information systems, in some schools, they will have an open response field to type comments for students, or they may have a drop-down menu or a code list to select canned or pre-programmed comments. Or in some schools, you could choose between the two and have both options. I'm convinced there's no right answer, so if you have any opinions, please do express them.
What did we do?
So we did the canned comments, but we did solicit feedback from the teachers as to what comments they would like in that bank of comments. We also did receive some feedback from them that they would like to explore the option of having the ability to do their own narrative, and so we'll sit down with them and Janice to take a look at that.
And again, I know I'm not the only one sitting here who's been through this once or twice. What generally happens with open response fields is a teacher, and you've got to bear in mind, hello teachers, you've got to bear in mind that the typical elementary school teacher has a classroom full of anywhere from 15 to 20-something students, but we also have many teachers in the middle school and unified arts who might teach 100 students. So I was a high school teacher once, and when entering all of these comments for all of those students, it's not shocking when somebody makes a typographical error. And unfortunately, in an educational environment, when a teacher makes an error entering data, people can react very strongly, even though it's a very reasonable, predictable occurrence. So there are schools, and I have worked at one in the past, where there were no open responses allowed in order to prevent a teacher, unfortunately, having a typographical error and then having that turn into an unpleasant situation. But that's not necessarily a good reason to not do it. That's just one of the arguments. And again, I think there are probably other people familiar with it here.
Speed too, I mean, that's the fact of the matter. If I'm gonna type in, student is great, and number 4 says student is great, well, the same difference, I mean, so. But it is a long list.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I don't know how many, 80?
How many did we have? Do you know?
I don't know how many we had total, but
Because sometimes it's.
Somebody here has an idea.
specific to department or class, you know.
I worked at a school as a high school teacher where there were more than 200 pre-programmed comments, because what happened was every time a teacher wanted to put in a comment that wasn't available, they would submit a ticket to the IT office and it would be added to the list. And I'm not going to speak for any teachers who may be watching the meeting from somewhere tonight, but many of us developed our group of preferences, committed them to memory, and I'm seeing some nods. Mine were 8, 12, and 16, and I don't remember what 8, 12, and 16 were, but I remember typing those numbers a lot.
Okay. All right.
That was a great question, thank you.
Moving on to the Director of Special Ed report. Congratulations to Stephanie Kuchar, the preschool teacher and special ed teacher. She was selected as a recipient of the Elementary STEM Council Rising Star Award. It's a national award, and she's been invited to present at the ESCITEEA National Conference in March. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a go to that?
Do we know if she has chosen yet, or if we know?
I
We
have-
will, if she wants to go.
I have not
Yeah,
received
She,
any.
she is going.
Yeah, great.
In March,
So
yes.
that means yes.
We should support.
We will cover that.
Okay. Anything else?
It is. It's already,
Principals report, Janice?
So you have the report in front of you. It's pretty extensive. We've done a lot since the beginning of the year. Tried to sum it up in a trimester one report. We've continued to do our work with Mike Anderson. He's done quite a bit of work with all of our teams, especially with regard to morning meeting and advisory blocks, refining those and offering support in various aspects. Our wind block implementation, we are now doing a similar model in the K-4 grades as we started last year with 5 through 8. They are definitely more data-driven, which is resulting in more targeted interventions that are more explicit and intentional. Our enrollment is at 432, which is fantastic in comparison to previous years. As you know, our 8th grade class is going to Washington, D.C. This is their first time. We have 48 registered. Our beginner band and chorus is exceptionally impressive right now. I think almost every single 4th grade student, with the exception of 3, are in band with Mr. Nephew. Our after-school program continues to grow. We have wait lists for many of the activities that are being offered. Lego Club seems to be very popular this time around. I know there's a wait list right now. We're continuing to use our data-driven strategies with the USNS, DIBELS, and STAR assessments. Our classrooms are also practicing the SAS modules in preparation for May testing. Our MTSS committee continues to meet weekly. We are now what I would consider fully operational, whereas last year we were in the beginning phases. We have stakeholders who are part of that committee and meet every Monday to discuss academic and behavioral interventions. And our PLCs are being refined. Tanya Atkinson and I have attended some professional development so that we can help bring that back to the school and make sure that we're using the data properly during these PLCs. In November, the faculty were introduced to restorative circles by Jacqueline Rohr. We modeled in some examples of that and provided it as a resource that they could use in their classrooms. I think it's been a pretty busy 3 months here at Alton Central, to say the least. Anybody have questions?
Do the kids do the restorative circle, is that the same thing?
Yes, so the kids can participate in that. It would be led by the classroom teacher. Generally, it's a whole classroom of students. I know some of our teachers took it right after their training and used it in their classroom. It's a great way of building community. There's usually a question that's posed. There's a talking piece that goes around. Our 8th grade students have also done it as the entire 8th grade in the gym. We've done that twice, where the kids have had the opportunity to have questions answered or ask questions. It's been very informational, really getting to know the kids quite better by doing this.
Anything else? Thank you. Curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Matt?
Good evening, everyone. In your board packet, I have a couple items that I'd like to bring to your attention. Our system-wide literacy committee continues to meet. We had a meeting in November, then another one in December. As we go through the process, we're slowly narrowing down our focus of what we're looking for. On December 3rd, the committee went through this K through 12 language comprehension look-fors. It was an exercise where we had a bunch of questions and groups of people came together and collaborated on what would the answers be. And some of the questions might be, are we looking for a teacher-centered versus a student-centered or something in between, and things of that nature. And all of these questions were used to create a survey to send out to our faculty and staff for their feedback. Again, part of that will help the group look at what programs we want to pilot. As part of the pilot process, we will look at Ed Reports. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Ed Reports, but Ed Reports is an independent nonprofit organization that provides evidence-based reviews of K through 12 instructional materials, assessments, and things of that nature for all of our core subjects. And it's vetted through multiple agencies and different, whether the regular K through 12 teachers, professors, you name it. They go through that, and then they rank based off of that feedback. So if you get a green light in Ed Reports, that usually means that they're hitting all the markers that they're looking for in a program. And again, you can drill down into the different ones there. So we'll use Ed Reports, but we'll also look at, the state has a list of programs as well that they're supporting. So we'll cross-reference those two lists to look at the different programs that we want to pilot. Once we select that pilot group, then we will look at going to not only piloting, but also visiting schools in the areas that are actually utilizing this, so we can get a firsthand knowledge of what it looks like and talk with people who are using that. Again, the idea would be sometime in May that we would meet at the school board level to let you know that we are looking to move forward with a specific program. Certainly because of the budget process being done, we wouldn't be able to purchase a program moving into next year, but what we would do is use next year as a way of providing the professional development that we need from that program so that we can implement that if we in the 27-28 school year. So that would be the process. If you want to take a look at the survey and the questions that they're asking, the link is there. On December 8th, Principal Christian and I, along with Assistant Principal Rohr and the team reps, met with a representative from Capturing Kids' Hearts. Capturing Kids' Hearts is a relationship-focused program designed to create supportive and connected classroom environments. Built on the belief that strong teacher-student relationships are foundational to academic success and social success as well. It's not a program. Capturing Kids' Heart is not a program. It's basically part of what our day-to-day basis would look like. Some of the things that come out of Capturing Kids' Hearts is a consistency K through 8 for every classroom. Language is consistent K through 8. It doesn't change necessarily. I mean, obviously, the way you speak with a kindergarten versus an 8th grader, but the framework is all the same all the way up through. So after the conversation that we had with the team reps, it was decided that we would take the next steps. The next steps would be to send a team of 6 people. They have what they call a flagship training in February in Concord. And what they do is they walk that group of teachers along with others from throughout the state through the process so they get firsthand knowledge of what this framework looked like. This ties a lot into what Mike Anderson's been doing. It's part of MTSS as well. It's sort of all, picking it all and putting it into one place there. If after the February 10th and 11th trainings, if that group feels like this is something we want to move forward with as a school, then we will sit down with the remaining members of the faculty and staff, have a conversation with them, bring the consultant back in to have a conversation with the full team, and then work out the details. If we go forward with it, this would be looking like a training in August with implementation next school year. Again, there's a lot of data behind this program, or excuse me, this framework, and it seems to be, from the information that we received, very effective. Right now, Newport, New Hampshire has implemented it in their elementary school. In their first quarter, they saw a 61% decrease in Tier 1 behaviors right out of the get-go. So, and then if you look at some of the other information that they give you, it's proven to be effective. So, but it's something that we'll take a look at, again, after the February 10th and 11th meeting. Janice spoke a little bit about some of the assessments that we're doing. At our next school board meeting, Tanya Atkinson, Jill Moulton, Kate Noon will be here to do a presentation to the board. And they'll be bringing all of the information from all of the different assessments that we have conducted and will continue to conduct. And then what they'll do is they'll talk a little bit about what they're doing as the interventionists from Title I to our 5 through 8 literacy piece. Later on tonight, we're going to ask you to approve a math interventionist as well. So we did this at the Barnstead school board meeting. It was very informative, and we learned a little bit about the presentation and what we should and should not do. So this one will be a little bit different, but I think the information that we bring forward will be nonetheless something that you guys can wrap your heads around and see what we're doing as a result of the information that we get from each of these assessments.
Thank you.
You also have the next page there from the state, where it says, "Hello, leadership team at SAU 72. 'Tis the season of wrapping, and we are wrapping up the New Hampshire Secretary of State I Voted sticker contest submissions." If you look on the back side of this document, we had a handful of students who submitted the different ones there. While none of our students did win, there was quite a few submissions, but the fact that they went ahead and did this on their own, I think is a victory too. So, Tim, also, you had brought up that,
Yeah, so every entry into this contest will be reproduced on a poster and hung in the Legislative Office Building in Concord, if that hasn't happened already. So we'll make sure we get letters out to the families of the children who did enter. If they want to go see their artwork hanging in the LOB, they could do that, and they might be able to hook up with one of our legislators to show them around and talk to them a little bit. So we'll see. We'll send letters and see if we can arrange some of that.
Great.
Can we give a shout out to them?
Yes.
Clayton Clements, Samantha Collins, Paisley Glidden, Rebecca Labrie, Emmett Newton, Stephen Noyes, and Sadie Sicard. Great job.
Good job.
Thank you. Okay. So now we'll move on to action items. The first one. Oh my God, I'm sorry, Tim. I don't want to hear what you have to say.
I understand.
It's not in the packet.
I wouldn't take it personally at all.
Go ahead, Tim. Superintendent's report.
So Matt said that the intervention team in Barnstead learned a lot, and he learned a lot about how to do that presentation last month. I got a lot out of it too, and if you've previewed any of the materials that I've provided here tonight, you know I did. Look, I've worked most of my career under No Child Left Behind or the Every Student Succeeds Act. And in the process of moving from the classroom to central office administration and the superintendency, I've had a chance to look at a lot of data in my academic programs. We know a lot based on this vast trove of data that we have available about student outcomes and student achievement. And some of those things should allow us to look at the data we get back in any school with more realistic expectations. In other words, every year the state of New Hampshire, the Department of Education reports back to us, here was our students' average proficiency level by school, by grade, by subject. But what does that mean? What does it mean to be proficient? Anyway, none of us really know when the state establishes proficiency, what that means. So without a reference, without something to norm our data against, it really doesn't make sense. It's easy to go, well, anything less than 100% is not good enough, but I've never seen a 100% proficiency rate in a school, period. And again, even the state sets proficiency. It's a moving target. It changes it from time to time. It's not always the same thing. So we do know a lot, though, because of all this data we have available to us about the factors that correlate with student achievement. So what I did here, and I'm not going to read my presentation to you, and I provided a lot of copies in case there was anybody here tonight, is I've been intrigued for some time by the work of Sean Reardon, who works at Stanford University, and with his graduate students for his entire career, 25 years, has been looking at this exact phenomenon. What are the community factors that correlate with student achievement, and how can we start to predict or understand these correlations? And I think the one thing that I would point out is this scatter chart shows a pretty significant trend, upward trend, relating economic advantage in a community to student achievement levels. And a lot of research takes a whole lot of work and time to arrive at a conclusion that makes you want to go, well, duh. And in this case, it's kids in wealthier communities do better in school. Okay. But there's a strong research basis for that. In fact, when I was doing a quantitative methods class several years ago, I did a scatter chart, and I gave it to you. I don't have the file anymore. This is a photograph of the one remaining printed copy that I still have that shows that relationship in New Hampshire's median household income from 2017 and third grade reading scores from 2019. Just one little bit, and it's the same thing, right? Kids, in this case, kids with higher scores tend to live in wealthier communities. It works both ways, right? That makes sense. And this caused me to look at our two elementary schools. I did this for Barnstead also. I'll be talking to them Wednesday, so you can tell them all to get excited about that. About what should we expect when we look at data, right? Only considering these kinds of factors. And Alton is the 53rd ranked community out of 236 in New Hampshire in median household income. It is the 54th out of 234, because not everybody reports everything, in per capita income. And those are actually different things, even though Alton's ranking is similar. It is possible to find a community where the household income is relatively high, but per capita income can be much lower because of larger families living, and a larger family with the same household income is not as well off as a smaller family at whatever that income level might be. And then on the bottom of this slide, I have per pupil spending and average teacher salary, where we are on the edge of the top third, 58th and 64th in the state. These are all indicators that would suggest, because Alton is, I should say, above average in New Hampshire in each of these things, that when we look at achievement data, we should be expecting not to chase the state average, but to exceed the state average. And there's not a criticism embedded in this. This is not intended to be negative in any way. When I make a similar presentation in a different community, I might say something very different. Like in another community that's not as well off, they might be beating the odds to chase the state average. But here in Alton, those are the sorts of results that we should expect. And I think that can inform the way we look at data. So this won't surprise any of you. Have you ever known me to shy away from bad news? Not yet, right? We do lag behind the state average at Alton Central School in reading and math scores. That's all I've done here, because those are the two measures we get every year and have for a very long time. And if you go back through our history, I've done one reading slide and one math slide with the title, Are These Apparent Deficiencies New? And I'm using the word deficiency again, not to be negative or to judge us, but this is not what we would expect. So is this new? Did it just happen? Is it something we've done recently? Mike?
Tim, how do you control for, one of the things I remember is that we have a small school.
Yep.
So we have a small population that's testing. And if you get a couple, deviations from that, it can really skew the results. Do you control for that, or is?
So this is all, we have a wonderful base of research, and we are not researchers, right? So we need to be able to apply our own reasoning ability to what we see. Mike, if we saw in a particular year a group perform very differently from what we were accustomed to seeing, I would look at what do we know about this group, and that might explain that. So I think the question's a good one, because what I'm looking for is there this sort of up and down variability in our results from year to year, or are we fairly predictable? And I think you can see we're quite predictable.
Yeah.
We have been below the state average in reading scores. I went back to 2017. I could have gone farther. Now, we are actually getting closer to the state average because the state average is coming down in reading, and we're staying about the same. But I think the first part's really important. This isn't what we would expect, given some of the demographic knowledge we have about Alton and about what Alton spends to support education. Again, not to be negative, but to understand where we should set our expectations and what is exactly the task in front of us. And then in math, we have been seeing a steady decline for many years, since before the pandemic. So one of the things people like to talk about in education these days is that achievement is worse since the pandemic, and that is true. So I think it's important to go back a few years before and see that this decline has been in place for a long time. This also means that it's not one person or event or hire or system or curriculum. It's not one thing, right? If it were one thing, we would see a big change somewhere. And we haven't seen a big change. anywhere. We've seen this consistent pattern or level of performance. So this came to mind for me. I mean, obviously, I did that scatter chart that I showed you years ago, so I've thought about this before. But this came to mind for me when the Barnstead intervention team was making their presentation to the board, as the Alton intervention team will make one to you sometime in the next couple of months. Knowing where we should set our expectations seems really important to me. And I think it's probably really important to everybody in the school to know, when are we going to be satisfied? What is it that we should be looking for? The last thing I did here, and it's this table with a yellow background, is I looked at some other schools. You can drive to all of these schools in less than a half an hour, but I've paid them the respect of anonymity. And I started with that median household income rank in order to find communities that at least had something in common with us. They're not all the same. I know who they are, so that makes it easier for me to understand the more nuanced differences among the communities. Like, for example, I talked about the difference between median household and per capita incomes, and you can see two of these communities. You see exactly the big difference that I referenced earlier that indicates larger households. What I would expect in those communities is it would be harder to meet or exceed state averages than it should be in a place like Alton, or if you go down to the bottom at elementary school C, whoever that is. What's instructive to me, because these schools are all near us, I don't think our students are predictably all that different from one another, meaning the families are the families and the kids are the kids, and they could move back and forth across the borders among these towns, driving about a half an hour or less. And it's unlikely that we have a unique, significantly different group of kids living in Alton. Again, not this year, but going back many, many, many years compared to these surrounding communities. And you do see the sorts of outcomes that I would have predicted. So elementary school A, which granted has 360 kids, we have over, well, I put 415, but we have 430 now. So we're bigger. We have 40-something teachers. That school has 30 teachers. That makes sense, given that population. But there's a pretty stark difference, and what I did is positive and negative points compared to the state average proficiency level, right? So points above the state average, points below the state average. Elementary school B is pretty close to the state average, just above, but they have some challenges that we don't. Look at per capita income, per pupil spending, and average teacher salary, right? We should have some advantages compared to that place. Now, the third school is significantly different in one important way, and that is that it's a kindergarten through fifth grade school. Students' academic achievement is much more challenging after fifth grade. This is a fact, and I know some people you could talk to who would probably support that statement. Everywhere this is a fact, not in Alton, New Hampshire. So the fact that that's a K through 5 school, small type, bad eyes, is significant, but I see that math proficiency, 39 points above the state average, and that makes me want to talk to them anyway. Because they're doing something, even if it's at kindergarten through 5, that I would love to know more about. I also selected these schools, so not only is their median household income similar to Alton's, but we know people at all of these places and have good relationships with all of them and have already talked to 2, if not all 3 by now, and started to make arrangements to get together. So that we can talk about, is it, you've heard tonight, I won't go through my recent and ongoing intervention list, because you've already heard about half of it tonight, right? MTSS and curriculum building, ICANN statements and scope and sequence and other ongoing work just over the last couple of years since this administrative team has been in place. The work with Mike Anderson, capturing kids' hearts. These are all pieces of the puzzle, but what are the most important pieces? My hope is that by talking with our colleagues in some of these other nearby schools where they probably don't do everything right and they're probably not totally satisfied, but they're doing some things that we might be able to learn from, is that we'll be able to highlight, because I've heard a lot of wonderful things, and I'm aware of them, of course, because I have to find the money to pay for them all. But I know there's a lot going on here. at some point, we have to pick the highest leverage initiatives and really focus our time and resources on those. So my hope is that as we continue our work this year, we can talk to some of our colleagues in some of these other nearby districts and maybe help illuminate of all these things that we know or believe are important. And there's a research basis behind everything you've heard about tonight. There's nothing happening here that doesn't have research that supports its value. But where do we want to lean in the hardest and work the most? So I also gave you a copy. When you're really looking for something to do over the upcoming break, you can read Sean Reardon's report from April of 2016, which I think is a great piece of research. And then finally, I gave board members, and we will post these with the meeting minutes, so they'll be publicly available, all the raw data that I used to establish Alton's ranks and percentiles in all of these measures. So I hope that wasn't too long. I tried to summarize.
When we were talking about the math scores, I know it's been, Mike saying how we're trying to figure out, scores that bring, us down, but these two most recent years on this report are increased compared to the other years, and that was around the time when we started WIN, right? So these last 2 years, so did that come from another school? Did we talk about that? Is that a program that we always had and we just fine-tuned? Because the last 2 years, we're up higher than the 2024, right?
So WIN has existed here for quite some time. It was refined within the last 2 years to do more targeted interventions specific to the students in the groupings. I'd like to think that did play a part.
Yeah, no,
But-
I think it is, and when we're trying to put these students in these WIN groups, and we're doing that based off of the STAR testing, right?
Yes.
So we are seeing improvement on this change. I just wanna point that out, because I know a lot
Yeah.
of people can't see what we see here, so I know we talked about declining scores, but we are,
So correlation versus causation is a really important concept here. It will be almost impossible to establish causal relationships between the things we do and outcomes because we don't control all the other variables and just do one thing at a time, right? I mean, a school is a complex kind of living organism anyway, right? So on our best day, we don't know about all the different things even that are happening that could be influencing outcomes positively or negatively. So we hope, Lauren, that establishing more rigor or different expectations or whatever it is in WIN, for example, is one of the pieces. It'll be virtually impossible to establish a causal relationship between anything, that or anything else we do. What we hope is, again, we pick the right things in the light of our own experience, teachers' experiences, our colleagues' experiences, and we do enough of the right things that we see results. But I think it's important to me to understand where we should be setting the bar. And again, it's not a threat, it's just realistic. We should be seeing better than average results in the state of New Hampshire. So until we do, it takes this entire school community to figure this out.
One of the intervention efforts that you mentioned, the peer outreach and support, that you're gonna interview them to see how they establish curriculum and instruction expectations. Can we also take a peek at like their overall health as a school system, like culture and discipline, or like, because I'm sure that will ball into it too. If the kids are engaged, they'll want to learn more or learn better, or if the teachers are proposing things to the students a different way. I don't know, just can we ask them too, like how, like just get a read on,
holistic,
the whole thing? Because there might be something there too, as opposed to just curriculum or instruction. Maybe they're doing something else that's encouraging students to want to absorb the information better. I don't know. Or how they set up their classrooms, or desks facing a wall or facing each other. I don't know. Like there's got to be something else in the mix that might
there was a time here, preceding all of us sitting at this table, but not everybody in the room, when the school community came up with this idea that attendance was important, and that's not controversial. Attendance is important. Kids learn more when they're in school. Kids also learn more when their teachers are in school, so attendance for kids and attendance for faculty are both important. And in order to try to grow attendance among kids, there was a push here, and again, this goes back several years before our administration, expanding student choice and voice and adding electives and increasing the amount of unified arts offerings was prioritized for a while. I've already shown you the data. Like there aren't, and again, causation is hard. You can't necessarily establish causal relationships, but there just hasn't been an appreciable bump in performance here. So we continue, you know, it should not be controversial to say that a school with documented curriculum and consistency across grade levels and vertical planning by subject is likely to produce better outcomes than a school that lacks those things and has more very well-meaning professional educators sort of writing their own programs in isolation from one another. So I don't think it should be controversial that some amount of curriculum work, documentation, and even requirements for staff have to exist in an institution that's going to produce great outcomes. Oh, you're so welcome.
Lots to unpack.
Anything else? Do you wanna finish your report?
Oh, did I have something else on my report? Sorry.
Since you
Yeah.
made me look at it.
Well, so when you get to action items, you've got the proposed budget. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. So yeah, I'll mention this for anyone who may not have read it. So we do have a tentatively scheduled brief Alton School Board meeting posted for tomorrow night after the JMA meeting. You will only need to convene that meeting and hold it if the joint board changes the high school budget. And I can report, or Christy can, that the joint budget committee that met last week didn't recommend any changes to the high school budget. So I would be a little surprised if you have to hold that meeting tomorrow night. So if you recommend the budget under action items tonight, you're probably finished, just pending the outcome of tomorrow's joint board meeting. And we may not have the pleasure of another formal meeting tomorrow night of the Alton School Board. And then on Thursday, however it all shakes out, I'll go see the Alton Budget Committee to go over the operating budget. And I do need to, I put a note here on my agenda, I do need to ask you, because I'm not sure we have a vote on the books, but we have talked more than once this fall about repeating the $120,000 warrant article to raise funds to move into the capital reserve fund for boiler replacement. So the Alton CIP committee knows that we're planning to do that. The Alton Budget Committee knows from last year that we're planning to do that. But I will need you to vote your recommendation on that warrant article so we can put it in the minutes of tonight's meeting. You have until January 13th to take that action, but unless you plan to change your mind, there's no time like the present. Thank you. That's my
Okay.
report.
All right, thank you. So moving on to action items. The fiscal year 27 proposed budgets.
I make a motion to approve the fiscal year 27 proposed budget
Do you wanna give a dollar amount?
of, looks like $18,792,042.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And the default.
So I put a handout
Oh, there it is, thank you.
on Yeah.
This
Vote on
one.
that one, please.
So,
Not the one in, yeah.
this one, so I make a motion, to approve the default budget for 26-27 on fiscal year 27 of $18,654,357.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nope.
And just for anybody following the meeting, the difference between the board proposed budget and the default budget is $137,685. So should the board's proposed budget fail in the March election, the board would need to cut $137,685.
Thank you, Heidi. Okay, policies.
Can you, do
Make
you
a
mind
mo-
doing the warrant
Yeah,
article for that?
make a motion to approve
Okay.
a warrant article to put $120,000 in the CIP.
Yep.
For the boiler.
We have a separate fund for boiler
Yep.
replacement. Yep, and the language will be identical to last year's.
Okay, thank you. I tried the best I could.
Did great.
Mike seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed?
JICL
Yeah,
dash R, so that was that was in, sort of
There
in
it
the
is.
technology and it's also here.
okay.
Make the motion to, approve the first reading of the addendum to JICL dash R, policy on synthetic media and deep fakes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay. And personnel,
Make a motion to approve the, resignation of a social worker for the last day of 12/31/25.
with regrets.
Yep. Anybody want a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Or, we don't really, do we, yeah,
Yeah, I
Yes.
think so. Aye.
and,
Aye.
aye.
You do. For certified staff,
Yeah.
the board appoints upon nomination by a superintendent, and the board accepts resignations as well. You also have 2 incoming professional staff nominations. So again, certified staff, we have a guidance and health teacher coming in as a long-term substitute, and we have finally found a math interventionist ready to start at the beginning of January.
Great. So I make a motion to approve the long-term substitute for guidance and health and the math interventionist.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And the other ones are no actions needed.
No
Yep.
actions.
So now we will move on to public input. We have a large group here, so I'll just remind everybody that individual speakers will be allotted 3 minutes per person. Each speaker will be permitted equal time. You may not relinquish allotted time to another speaker. We have a total of 30 minutes to hear public comment. As you step forward, please identify yourself clearly for the record and the issue you wish to be heard on.
Just real quick. I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but Anna Ransom, resident of the community, parents of 3 kids in this district and the one above us. Thank you for the presentation of the data tonight. I think in addition to the questions that the board asked, I would suggest a couple of other questions for consideration. I'm going to make an assumption that in these charts, when we reference median household income, that is for the community. I would explore a little further to say, what is the median household income of our student population? Because there's probably a big disparity there, so that could skew some of the numbers. And then the other one that stood out to me on the bar charts, the blue and the green, safe to assume that these are, you don't have to answer this, I know this. I'm going to assume that these are representative of the full school for each year. And my recommendation here would be, Let's look at this by cohort level. For instance, the valedictorian and salutatorian from Brewster Academy last year were both students from this school. Some of the highest ranking students at Prospect Mountain's senior class right now, they came from this school as well. So let's look at this by cohort level rather than aggregating it up, because there you might find some clearer trends in terms of when things shifted and changed. Because I can tell you my 2 older kids who came from this school, we moved to this school because the school was doing fantastic and amazing things. If we brought some of those things back, I think we could do really amazing, amazing work for the students in our community. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a copy for each of you after I'm done. I am losing my voice, so I'm going to try to get through this. Cindy McKnight. I am a parent of a 7th grader here at ACS and have a son as well who's at Prospect. So this is about the 7th and 8th grade math program. Chair Wood and members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to speak on this. I'm here tonight because the 7th and 8th grade math situation is not working, and it hasn't been working, despite concerns being raised early and repeatedly. I first brought these issues to the administration 19 days into the school year. We are now well past that point, and there has been no real improvement in these classrooms. This is affecting every type of student, including those who previously did well in math, students with 504 plans and IEPs, and everyone in between. No group is being served well. I am intentionally not naming individual teachers here. These concerns are about systems and instructional practices, not people. The pattern is simple. Students do not understand the material, and the way assessments are being handled is masking that problem instead of fixing it. Some students are asked to retake the exact same tests they already failed without being retaught the material. Others are allowed to correct failed tests and turn them back in. Scores go up, but understanding does not. In at least one case I personally observed, a higher retake score came from memorizing corrected answers, not from actually learning the math. That is not mastery, that is memorization. Grading has also been inconsistent and at times incorrect, including identical answers receiving different scores and errors in Infinite Campus where physical assignment grades do not match what is entered, requiring families to request corrections. When grades can't be trusted, neither can the data. District-wide ACS math scores, as you said, are extremely low, which tells us that this is not a single classroom issue. It is a program-level-wide problem. At this point, responsibility rests with the leadership. It is the responsibility of the administration and Superintendent Tim Broderick in particular to ensure that middle school math is taught by educators who are appropriately qualified to teach middle school math, and that students are being properly taught, assessed, and supported. When concerns about instruction were raised, I asked for specific documentation to confirm appropriate qualifications and placement, including whether required praxis or equivalent subject area exams had been taken, passed, and when. That request was not responded to, and follow-up requests were also ignored. Not documentation or clarification. This was a reasonable request for verification and transparency at the administrative level. Equally concerning was the tone of the communication I received.
That's 3 minutes.
Rather than engaging collaboratively to address the concerns, the communication was dismissive and condescending, while
Okay, Cindy, I'm
students
gonna have to
continued
stop
to
you there.
fail.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Kimberly Place. I have a student in 8th grade here. He actually joined your school, this school, in 5th grade, and my concern is about the math program as well. Good evening, members of the school board, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm here tonight to express serious concerns regarding the effectiveness of the 7th and 8th grade math program and how it is impacting my son and his peers. This year, my son has struggled, not because of a lack of effort or ability, but because of how the material is being taught. Instruction relies heavily on working directly from a textbook with limited explanation. When students asked for clarification or requested that lessons were slowed down, they were told this is as slow as I can go. The approach leaves many students behind and discourages questions in the subject where understanding is critical. There are also ongoing issues with grading accuracy. Assignments have been marked incorrect when they're correct and have been marked correct when they're incorrect. The answer key being used is not reliable, which creates confusion and erodes student confidence. Where students cannot trust feedback, meaningful learning cannot occur. Despite being given open book tests, many students are still performing poorly. My son, has actually been teaching the material to his friends and to himself, and still finding himself getting like a 1 or a 2 when his friends have a 3 or a 4. While his grades actually remain high, it does not reflect the true comprehension of algebra and only the determination to keep up. One particular telling moment occurred on a day when a substitute teacher was present. Students reported that they learned more in that single class period than they have all year. The substitute broke down clearly and demonstrated a strong grasp of the material. This highlights that the issue is not the curriculum or the student, but the delivery of instruction. I'm deeply concerned about the long-term impact. My son has aspirations to become an astrophysicist, a career built on advanced mathematics. Without a strong foundation, he and others face significant challenges as they move into high school and more advanced courses. I respectfully ask that the board review this math program, evaluate instructional practices, and ensure that students receive accurate instruction, appropriate pacing, and meaningful support. Our children deserve more than just a passing grade. They deserve to understand. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Other public input? Okay, we'll close public input then. Future agenda items. Add on athletics discussion. Anything else to add? Nope.
We talked about the
We'll have the
presentations, yeah.
presentation.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And they do cohort level reporting, and they use multiple different assessments, so they are able to triangulate data.
Do we need a non-public?
Yeah. Let's.
If you do, you do.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do that. All right. So we will. Go ahead.
Make a motion to go into non-public under RSA -90, or RSA 91-A:3 II, A, and C.
Second.
Roll call. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I'll go ahead and move these here for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.